A lot of aspiring screenwriters have this as a goal. In the next 12 months, I want to write a screenplay that does X, sells, wins a contest, gets me repped, whatever. And the problem is, you, as the writer, can only control part of that equation.
I'll write you a movie for $1,200 then.
And you don't want your name on it.
No, you don't want my name on it.
It's like those impossible math problems where you have to solve for X, but you don't even know what Y and Z are. So you just don't have the resources to solve the problem. And it's frustrating and aggravating. I've been there both in screenwriting and in calculus 2 at university because I thought that would be fun. But the only way to write a screenplay, the only way to approach it, is to first come in understanding that there are factors you cannot control. So what you have to do is master the factors you can control. And there's definitely some things you can do to write scripts that Hollywood will be interested in to better position your script for success. And I've been teaching those to my students for the last several years. If you want to work with me, there's a link below this video that will get you more information. But the most challenging part of screenwriting has nothing to do with the actual writing of the script. It has to do with your approach. But I also don't want to leave you hanging if you're wanting a plan of attack for the actual process. So I'm going to give you 2 ways to approach screenwriting that will, if you do them, be game changers for you. And I'm going to give you a simple 5-step process for writing a screenplay with some target dates to help you stay on track. I mentioned a moment ago I was into math at one point, and I was decent at it, but I just wasn't into math for math. And I was also into physics, so yeah, total nerd. But I originally thought I was going to be an ophthalmologist, an eye surgeon. I loved playing with lasers and thought being a doctor would be good, and math and physics are both an integral part of that world. But I didn't want to just get into any medical school. I wanted to get into a great school. So I was positioning myself to do that, getting the right scores on tests, getting the right recommendation letters, some relevant experience. That's where I was going. But it was going to be a long haul, 4 years of undergrad, then getting in medical school, so another 3-4 years, and then internships and credentialing, and the whole thing was going to be like a 10-year ordeal before I was actually going to have my own place. And while I ultimately ended up choosing a different direction, thank goodness, I was committed to the long haul. I was in. I knew it was going to take a while, but I didn't care because I knew what the end result was going to be if I put in the work along the way. And it's no different than the first approach to screenwriting that you have to have. Patience. I know there were things I needed to learn, and I knew to be an expert, I was going to have to put in the time. But I run across so many screenwriters who want the quick fix, the magic bullet. Just give me a save the cat outline, let me fill it all in and pump it into AI and sell the script, right? That'd be awesome. But I'm sorry, that's just not how you find success over the long haul. And I want you to find success. But the first way you have to approach screenwriting is to be patient, not passive, patient. You have to put in the work and know it's going to take some time for that work to pay off. Just like you would if you were going to do any other career. I mean, you don't graduate college and suddenly you're the CEO of a multi-million-dollar business. That's not how that works. And yes, there are faster ways to learn the skills you need to learn. You can, of course, do it on your own, or you can get help and watch videos like this or take advantage of other opportunities when you find them. So know going in, it's going to take you time to get good at anything. And that's especially true for screenwriting. And the second way to approach screenwriting, if you're wanting to write a screenplay this year, has to do with this quote by comedian Jimmy Carr.
But they're jealous of what you've got. They're not jealous of how you got it. No comedians are jealous of how I got it.
Or another way by Chris Williamson.
People see the trophies, but not the training ground.
Or one more, this is from Alex Hormozy.
Everybody wants the view, but no one wants the climb.
And all 3 of those guys are wildly successful, and yet they're all saying the same thing. And probably one of the best visuals for this comes from Free Solo, a 2018 documentary about Alex Honnold, a rock climber who is attempting to free climb El Capitan in Yosemite, which means he's going to scale this granite rock without ropes or assistance. And he practiced and practiced and practiced and fell, sprained an ankle, and eventually he manages to make it to the summit. The first person to do such a difficult climb without the use of equipment ever. And what's interesting about this film is the view at the top is almost an afterthought, almost like a throwaway. It's not that. Okay, it's important that Alex makes it there, but once he gets up there, he enjoys the view for a moment, savors the accomplishment that he just had, and then he's kind of like, okay, well, now what's for lunch? The focus of the film is on the climb. on the struggles, on the turmoil, on the self-doubt, on the small victories, on the fact that he hangs from a fingerboard every day just to strengthen his hands. And for Alex, his focus wasn't on reaching the top. It was on perfecting his technique. He knew if his technique was good, he would be able to reach the top. But if he focused on reaching the top, his focus would waver and he would never get there. And so many screenwriters focus on the end result and not on the climb. They want the sold script or the representation or the next deal or the contest win, whatever it is, but few are willing to do what it takes to put in the hard work. In other words, if you're just trying to get the end result, you're going to be frustrated. And what you have to learn to do right now is to shift your mindset into one of learning to write excellent stories, to focus on the techniques, the things that make a good script great. Your focus should not be on the result, the view, but on the process, the climb. Shifting your focus to be on the process and to get good at the process is what will get you where you want to go. So if you want to write a screenplay in the next 12 months or less, which I'm going to break down how to do that here in a second, cultivate patience by trusting the process and working toward the goal you want. But then second, the goal you should be after is on honing the process. Excellent technique will get you where you want to go. So, Jake, how do I actually write a screenplay? Well, let me quickly give you a simple 5-step process you can use as a template for writing a screenplay. And at the end, I'll give you some target dates to hit if that helps you to stay on track. But as you go through these 5 steps, because you will go through them over and over and over and over again for each script you write, remember to be patient and to focus on the process and making it better each time you write a new script. You are essentially hanging from a fingerboard here. And for the first step, I don't want you wasting time writing scripts that aren't going to do anything for you down the road. Okay, so as you're beginning, you need to make a decision about what you want the script to do for you if you manage to catch lightning in a bottle. Do you want to win a contest? Do you want meetings with producers? Do you want a manager or some other representation? And then know going in that you need a script that gives you the best shot at reaching that specific goal. So step 1, build a marketable idea. And marketable ideas have one thing in common. They easily and simply communicate what the story is about. So you can always boil them down to 1 or 2 sentences. So figure out your goal if you catch lightning in a bottle, and then boil down a marketable idea into 1 sentence. And then to move forward, you're just going to expand on that and figure out a trajectory for your story. If you're going on a road trip in real life, you don't normally just get in the car and drive. You have a destination. You pack accordingly. You check the weather and all that stuff. You probably have planned stops or at least travel goals for each day. And screenplays are no different. And if you end up finding success and getting hired to write screenplays, you will have to learn to submit an outline or treatment or something that is a planning tool. So step 2, plan out your script. And you can do this in a lot of ways, but the simplest is to take your 1 sentence and then build it into 3 sentences. And think of each sentence as an act of your script. So sentence 1, act 1, sentence 2, act 2, etc. Then take those 3 sentences and expand it and make a paragraph. And then take that paragraph and now make it 3 paragraphs. Again, each paragraph is an act. And each time you expand to the next thing, you add more detail. So after that, 1 page, then 3 pages, and do it as much as you want until you get the script to where you want to get to. And at some point, you can even start planning and breaking down the scenes that you need. And once you have a solid plan for a story, all the way from the beginning to the end, you got to know the beginning and you got to know all the way to the end, then comes step 3. Writing it. Most writers write their scripts in order. So they start on page 1, the first scene, they go all the way to the end. But a few write the scenes that they clearly see in their head first, and then the other scenes around those. So I might see a scene like, oh, I've got this one, it's on page 17, this other one on page 42-ish, whatever, and I write those scenes, and then I start writing the scenes around it, and then I slowly build out the screenplay. But every professional writer I know plans their script, and then they write a draft based on that plan. Yes, things might change slightly, but the bulk of the things are as they had planned. The goal here is to have a solid story. So you want to make sure you get all the story beats in there. And don't worry if they're clunky, don't worry if your dialogue is on the nose, you can fix that stuff in step 4. which is revision. So in step 3, you're focused on having a solid story. In step 4, your goal is to clarify the story if it needs it, and then focus on the storytelling, the experience of the reader. This is critically important because you want anyone who reads it to love it. So you need to focus on not just having a story, but telling it well. And once you've done that, you get to step 5. Polish. This is where you make sure everything is good to go. You have a marketable idea, you have a solid story, you tell it well, and now you make it look pretty. That's all a polish is, making it look good and making you know that you're showing people a solid script. So how long should these things take? Well, if you're a working professional screenwriter doing it full time, you should be able to do all of this in about 12 weeks. And at 5 days a week, that translates to about 60 days. But you have jobs and families and such, so I'll give you the timeline most professionals would use to work through these steps, so the 12-week version, but then I'm going to give you an estimate for how long it will take you if your goal was to have a solid polished draft 12 months from now. So for a professional, it looks like this. Step 1, idea generation, 10 days, 2 weeks. Step 2, planning, 20 days, 4 weeks. Step 3, draft 1, 15 days, or about 3 weeks. Step 4, revision, 10 days, or about 2 weeks. Step 5, polish, 5 days, or 1 week. Now, if you want the simple conversion for a script in a year, just swap out week for month. 2 months for idea generation, 4 months for planning, 3 months for first draft, 2 months for revision, a month for polish. If you want to do it in half the time, divide everything by 2. Okay, you get the gist. But this will help you plan out your time and give yourself some deadlines. But remember, and this is critical, be patient and focus on the climb. Not just on having a finished screenplay, but when your screenplay is finished, you want it to have a better chance at connecting with a reader. So you must avoid mistakes early on in your script. And in this video right here, I tell you how to avoid some of the biggest first page mistakes in your script. Now, if you want to work with me, links are below, so click one of those or go watch this.